driven by a global vision, supported by state-of-the-art technology, producing unmatchable engineering expertise. Across the globe, our people are ready to deploy their technical know-how to be the engineers of your success. We are Global Engineering Enterprises. A balance must be found between leadership personnel's ownership of past failures and their willingness to rely on the strengths of our team to move on from those mistakes. In 2014, scholars Prime and Salib delved into the ability of leadership attitudes to influence the overall development of a company and to empower others to come forward with their ideas. The scholars noted that when leaders humbly admit they do not have all the answers, they create a space for others to step forward and offer solutions. The discretion that a leader can derive from practicing humility will allow them to pull from the strength of more than one mind and discover a multitude of potential solutions and prepare the company to start working on the contract with confidence. Looking at our future as a company, we must not ignore the lack of direction and response that led to our last few months of poor performance. Additionally, we will also address gaps in leaderships in order to create reliable direction for this potential contract work. Prime and Salib proposed that humility is a leadership trait recognized across cultural and physical boundaries, and it has the ability to envelop past performance, present situations, and future opportunities. These two also recognize that, particularly in diverse work groups, displays of humility may help to remind group members of their common humanity and shared objectives. Our leaders should be driving our attention back to the mission as a company and exercising humility to learn from our past experiences. This will help us grow as a team, appreciate the talent that we have, and demonstrate the value that we place in our employees' futures. Change should never be a surprise for an agile company, and in order for Global Engineering Enterprises to win a bid for the future work, we need to prove that change is a part of our DNA. In 2012, UCOL explored the philosophy that a successful leadership dynamic should be capable of translating emerging threats into opportunities for new ideas and the chance to further develop and adapt as a company. In addition to the efforts by leadership to embrace change, UCOL explains the need of leadership to impart a higher degree of importance on continuous change to functional level employees. This will provide an organizational theme of progression and achieve the perspectives that welcomes change as a natural part of business. This contract will provide a much-needed avenue to prove our technical strengths in engineering and demonstrate our resiliency in the global marketplace and change-oriented vision as an organization. As a company, we must utilize our historical performance as a guide to what makes us successful in the marketplace. In 1987, Herbert Simon wrote to the value found in altering our problem-solving techniques in the future to stem from available knowledge regarding our collective capabilities and expertise, as well as focus efforts on the gaps in our problem-solving methods that led to the less than desirable performance in the last reporting period. It would be in Global Engineering Enterprises' best interest to utilize a means-ends analysis, best illustrated by Simon, in which our company and leaders, as problem solvers, compare the present situation with the end goal, detect the differences between them, and then reference methodologies to bridge the gap. Simon also emphasized that the methods used to present uncertain possibilities has a substantial effect on how people respond for it. Thus, we must frame this potential work available to us and proceed forward with the known strengths and added adjustments via leadership behaviors and structural changes proposed to produce solutions that are within our realm of expertise to execute successfully. There are endless theories and strategies available for decision-making in a scenario where our company assumes the work under the umbrella of this contract. I would like to suggest that as a whole, we employ an optimization approach, a method recognized by scholars Ahmed and Al-Matoud in 2012, where we account for the time restrictions, our current in-house resource base, and eliminate everything but the best potential approaches to the contract deliverables. By accounting for our current state resources and future timeline requirements, we are guided into a decision of which is mentioned by Ahmed and Al-Matoud, and is a selection of alternatives that are defined by Global Engineering Enterprises, supporting organizational structure, communication design, and reinforced by management styles. Utilizing the optimization approach to focus our efforts into a decision of which, we can effectively narrow down all the applicable approaches to choose the best fit for the work within the scope of the contract. Whether this organization is presented with good news or bad news, Global Engineering Enterprises assumes the responsibility of controlling the narrative by providing information to employees first, prior to mass media or grapevine channels. In Hussein's 2013 review of communication strategies, he proposes that leadership should capitalize on time advantages. By addressing poor financial or other subject area reports first, it allows employees the opportunity to air their questions and concerns, and aids in avoiding personnel departures spurred by uncertainty and lack of trust. In addition to emphasizing the value of timely internal communication, Hussein also testifies to the fact that there must be a continuous and ongoing effort to inform employees about implications on each level of the organization. This circumvents opportunities for ambiguity at every stage of the business cycle. In order to maintain the integrity of the message originally communicated internally, when Global Engineering Enterprises publishes messages to external stakeholders, it is imperative to avoid the disclosure of any new details. Hussein noted that leadership needs to identify the appropriate volume in regards to the distribution of information and actual communication regarding the need for change and the objectives of the modification of the business practices. For any and all external communication materials released to the community, relevance is key. Hussein also observed that the communication strategy should coincide with the general stages of the change process, and the applicability of associated information must be monitored closely. It is our responsibility to keep publicized messages in line with the timeline of upcoming changes and reinforce our commitment to the company's vision and expertise, and prioritize in-house specifics first. In order to support our prospective leadership styles and communication methods, Global Engineering Enterprises must rely on a strong foundation found in the structure. In 2016, Shafi, Razmina, and Zimaran emphasized that a solid organizational structure will provide a platform for a competitive edge and breed innovative thinking. Following this theory, the successful execution of an effective organizational structure is a means to obtain a competitive advantage and create an agile and responsive business foundation. As we are approaching this contract work, Shafi and his colleagues noted that to better adapt to different tasks, adopting a decentralized structure to delegate decision-making to personnel deeply involved in the tasking will allow for technical experts to flex their IQs without imposed restrictions from a top-down structure. Structure encompasses not only the type of work and responsibilities, but defines the autonomy that inspires innovative thinking. A decentralized structure supports and feeds the relationships and mechanisms that will bolster better output aligned with specific technical area demands. The proposed working teams will directly report to technical area managers to avoid information gaps. Shafi and his colleagues reiterate that a horizontal structure defined by specialized competencies will facilitate the communication between functional teams and leadership, avoiding traditional roadblocks of translating process-rich conversation being diluted by hierarchical barriers. Proposing structural changes and publicizing our intent to bid for this contractual work are promising steps forward for building a stronger future. However, continuity is key. In 2015, Conkright stated that the ball is dropped by executives who turn their attention to the next crisis or opportunity, leaving managers to carry on as best they can to see change to the end. While we have an immediate focus of producing quality services and final products for this pending tasking as a result of the contract, we would also like to remember managerial functions serve as long-term stabilizers for our business. Conkright identified that the functions of management often overlap as multiple projects and initiatives operate simultaneously at different stages. As a company, we must appreciate that managers are the literal translation of conceptualized changes and structural adaptations. Ensuring that the goals for the company continue through the life of the contract work and beyond requires deterring any potential fluctuation of engagement and commitment. Conkright affirms that organizing efforts to sustain favorable outcomes across all levels of the organization, in addition to managing day-to-day roadblocks and implementing changes, is the key to mediating any potential hurdles to recovering from our previous subpar performance. He also observed within his research the strong codependency of planning and execution. As an entity, we must examine and dissect the different functions and processes that affect the adoption of our proposed changes and understand which pieces we have influence over. In an extension of his previous findings, Conkright emphasized the importance of monitoring the level of effectiveness of the new structure and strategy over time. The ability of management to choose quantifiable variables applicable to their team's technical focus area that are indicators of overall progress will allow them to adjust and accommodate for functional team expertise and appropriate reporting mechanisms to champion the incorporation of the new structure. For example, our managers must control and adjust variables such as meeting times, appropriate attendees, recognition programs, and other items in order to guide desired outcomes and control distaste. These variables are easily enveloped into leadership duties, structural and managerial changes contemplated for the immediate recovery of global engineering enterprises and the proposed contract work. As we progress through these stages of taking on this new project, our managers will mold their plans and employee engagement techniques to ensure relevance in the current climate.